What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, and daily news. Everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis. Money, investing, the stock market, you know it. We cover it here on our channel. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're almost at 400,000 subscribers, so help us reach our goal. And also, thank you so much for hitting the like button for us down below. You guys are absolutely amazing. In this video, Senator Joe Manchin tells us what he wants in the new Build Back Better stimulus package. The White House is scrambling over the terrible jobs report that just came out. Yeah, that's because of the Omicron variant is just absolutely clobbering the country and the economy and making it much worse than previously thought. And also, the national debt hits a new all-time record. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about here, so let's jump right in. Yeah, the White House is trying to prepare Americans for the distorted, quote, jobs report that came out, or what they're trying to call a distorted jobs report that came out, that is over 300,000 jobs lost, or lost in January. White House is kind of scrambling over this because it's much worse than anticipated. And this is because the virus is just running rampant at this point. And the question is where is it going to plateau? And is the new Omicron 2.0 variant, the BA.2, is that going to kick up here as well? They say that the BA.2 variant is 1.5 times more contagious. And if that becomes the dominant variant, then we may be doing this all over again. So the White House is trying to say that this distorted jobs report is bad, but it's not our fault. It's the virus's fault, and it's only temporary. Meanwhile, the economy is struggling, people are struggling, and there's a lot struggling, right? White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says, quote, "We just wanted to prepare people to understand what it is an assessment of, and as a result, the month's jobs report may show job losses in large part because workers were out sick from Omicron." The White House is concerned that the Friday jobs report from the Labor Department could also be an eye-popping number because of how the jobs data is gathered. The January number that was released on Friday of 301,000 jobs lost is actually the result of a survey taken for the week around January 12th instead of an accounting of the entire month. Ouch. To make things even worse and even more complicated for millions of Americans is that there's no paid family and medical leave for millions and millions of Americans that were in quarantine. Remember that at one point, about 2 weeks ago, there was 8.8 million Americans out sick because they had tested positive and were in quarantine. This number could have actually been higher. This was, but this was the number that was estimated. 8.8 million people out sick, and imagine how many of them did not have paid leave from their job. Not many jobs actually offer paid leave. And remember, we are the only first world country in the world to not offer paid family and medical leave on a national federalized basis. Yeah. Now remember that they wanted, or the Democrats wanted, to pass paid family and medical leave in the Build Back Better package, but they have not been able to pass that yet. Partially in part of because Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Well, Senator Joe Manchin came out today and did give us some idea of what he would be willing to pass in the quote, new Build Back Better package. So basically, he has been saying that he will be willing to pass the Build Back Better package. They're just going to apparently rename it. It won't be called Build Back Better package. So if you're hearing that the Build Back Better package is dead, that's just because they're probably going to rename it and rebrand it. And also, he wants to somehow, Joe Manchin is going to be in charge of, or something along those lines. It's interesting how the Democrats passed it in the House, and 48-49 senators were Democrats were able to potentially pass it in the Senate, but one or two Democrats in the Senate are going to potentially be able to control or rewrite the plan in the Senate. So it's interesting how the shift of power can control things. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens here, because they're thinking about taking the bill and possibly splitting them off into separate bills, standalone bills. So that could happen as well. But here's what Senator Joe Manchin has to say. Joe Manchin gives a fresh hint on what he wants from a new Build Back Better. Quote, just fix the tax code. Here's what he has to say. This is from today. It's hard to know sometimes what's on Senator Joe Manchin's mind, but he seems to have taxes on the brain. Yeah, it's hard to know what's on his mind because he literally says completely different things from day to day. One day he'll say the bill's dead. The next day he'll say, no, it's not dead. I just want to change things. One day he'll say, I'm for the child tax credits. The next day he'll say he's not. It's confusing, right? On Wednesday, the elusive West Virginia senator reiterated a familiar priority for his future spending bill that Democrats eventually want to cobble together. Quote, just fix the tax code. Just fix the taxes, he says. Yeah, I figured that one out, right? Late last year, Manchin said he voted to advance an earlier version of the party line bill because his top priority was rolling back the 2017 Republican tax cuts, the 2017 Trump tax cuts. He often said he wanted to lift the corporate tax rate to 25% from its current level at 21%. But Manchin's central goal for the package was derailed by another Democratic holdout, Senator Kirsten Sinema from Arizona. Insider reported last fall that she objected to raising the corporate tax rate and individual tax rate, dealing a blow to the party's endeavor to hike taxes on the wealthiest Americans and large corporations. Senate Democrats can't afford to lose votes on either lawmaker in the face of unified Republican opposition, underscoring their outside influence on the size and scope of Biden's agenda. It's a precarious position that already put Build Back Better on pause for the time being. In a December radio interview with West Virginia Metro News, he said he sought to fix the taxes so that everybody paid their fair share. He says, quote, we have one chance at this, okay? You have a chance to fix the tax code that makes it fair and equitable. So if we all disagree with Republicans' reconciliation on tax cuts, remember that the Republicans also used the reconciliation bill, the reconciliation process to pass their bill, the 2017 Trump tax cuts. Manchin says, don't you think we can sit down and fix a fair and equitable tax code? Manchin has also repeatedly raised concern about rising inflation, which has reached its highest level in 40 years. A combination of persistent labor shortages and supply chain bottlenecks are pushing up prices across the board for groceries, gas, and housing. The Federal Reserve is charged with keeping inflation at manageable levels and increasing the cost of borrowing. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell signaled recently that an interest rate hike could come as soon as March. and we have reportedly talked about this on the channel. This will cost the government more money, though, to pay money on their interest. And we'll get to that here in a second. Manchin was asked if he could back the government spending after an interest rate hike. Manchin said, "We've got to be fiscally responsible when you see the debt has gone to $30 trillion. All the obligations with Medicare, Medicaid, and dependency with our retirees and that. There's so many fiscal responsibilities. We have to get our house in order first." And yeah, you can see here that our nation's debt has now topped $30 trillion. But honestly, if you've been watching my channel here, you know that this was inevitable. This has just been status quo for our country. The national debt is just, this is without passing any new stimulus packages here recently. This is just the cost of running the country. Remember that the national debt is just, the country runs a deficit. We've been running a deficit for many, many years now, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Yeah, you can see here the U.S. national debt topped $30 trillion on Tuesday, the highest it's ever been, according to the Treasury Department data. National debt grew significantly during the pandemic, increasing by $7 trillion since the end of 2019, which was when Trump was in presidency, in office. And by 2020, it was over $8 trillion that former President Donald Trump added to the deficit just in 4 years. So that was like 25% of the whole national deficit was added while Republican was in office. And in all fairness, Biden's going to add probably somewhere around that, if not more, if not a little bit less. It's just during the pandemic here as well, it's the cost of doing business, right? We're here in a pandemic, a once in 100-year pandemic. We have people that need taken care of. 25% of Americans can't pay their bills, struggling to put food on the table. We have dozens of states now that are putting additional money into SNAP benefits, pandemic EBT benefits, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. We have all these programs right now that are helping people that are just struggling to put food and shelter on the table, right? And then you have the government budgets that are billions and trillions of dollars. We have the military budget, which was $770 billion per year just to fund the military. That's per year, every single year, by the way. Multiply that times 10 years, that's what, $7.7 trillion just for the military in 10 years. That's just one thing, right? That's just one thing that you think about. So there's just so many things to our country. They just don't take in enough tax revenue. They just do not take in enough tax revenue. If we're talking about large scale economics here, the U.S. government just does not take in enough tax revenue. So, and I mean, if the two large things here is that to fix this problem, more people and more companies would have to pay taxes. And nobody wants to pay more taxes. Yeah, so when we look at kind of two problems here, if you're looking at worrying about the national deficit, would be this. 61% of households owed no federal income taxes in 2020, because this story is from August of 21. So if you were in the bottom 61% of income, you probably paid no federal income tax. Okay. Now you probably paid some federal income tax if you had a job, if you had earned income, but you have to then subtract the stimulus checks that you got. If you had any unemployment income, you have to subtract that. If you had any tax refund money, you have to subtract that, because all that is tax refund or tax rebates. Remember that a stimulus check is actually a tax refund. So you got to subtract that. So all that stuff gets deducted. It's a tax refund, right? It's a tax deduction. So you have to subtract all that stuff from the actual federal income that you paid, and you actually can pay negative federal income tax. So that's where they come up with the number of 61% of federal households paid no federal income tax when all is said and done. Even if you did pay in some, remember you get those tax refunds at the end of the year when you get your refund check. Stimulus checks are actually tax refunds. And then you have tax credits, you have the child tax credits, you have adult tax credits, you have all these different things, right? So at the end of the year in 2020, that was when former President Donald Trump was still president. This wasn't for Biden's presidency because remember, people are just now filing 2021 taxes. Um, so that data is not even in yet. So this is still underneath Trump's last year of president. 61% of households paid no federal income taxes, nothing or even negative amounts. So there's just not a lot of tax dollars coming in. In addition to this, corporations from 2020, here's another article, because again, 2021, people are just filing taxes now. 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America paid zero taxes. It says here the tax avoiding companies represent various industries and collectively enjoyed almost $40.5 billion in U.S. pre-tax income and paid $0 in taxes. In some cases, they actually get millions or tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax refunds. And they do this legally. It's just the way the tax code is. It's just the way the tax code is. They're not scamming the system. It's just the way the tax code is. So these these companies like Amazon actually is one of the most famous examples. Amazon 1 year made $11.2 billion in 1 year and paid no federal income taxes because of write-offs and everything. And I'm not like blaming anybody or pointing fingers at anybody or anything like that. I'm just kind of telling you guys the truth of how everything works. Yeah, so if anything, low taxes for everybody is actually a good thing for everybody except for the federal government, which just kind of goes to the national deficit, right? In my opinion, the national deficit doesn't really affect inflation. It just kind of goes to the national deficit number. Inflation is kind of a different thing. Inflation is not really based on the national deficit per se. It's two different things. But they do need tax dollars to pay for things. I know it gets a little bit confusing here. But you can see here, Amazon made 11, this is just one example here. Amazon made $11 billion in 1 year and paid no federal taxes. And yeah, this is why they want to change the tax code here. I mean, it's crazy, right? And then you have a lot of Republicans, and then you have Senator Kirsten Sinema that don't want to raise taxes on corporations, largely because they get corporate donors. They get corporations that donate a lot of money to them and say, don't raise the corporate tax rate. I know you can't make this stuff up, right? So they say, we'll donate money to your campaign. Don't vote for a corporate tax rate. Ta-da! And guess what? Guess what happens? They don't vote for it, so the change doesn't happen. Ta-da! Can't make this stuff up, right? So honestly, the national deficit just keeps growing. In 1990, it was around 3 or 4 trillion. Now it's 30 trillion. There's not much we can do, guys. At some point, it's going to be 60 trillion. If anything, taxes are at an all-time or near an all-time low. 61% of people paid no federal income tax in 2020. Corporations are paying very low taxes. If anything, low taxes are a good thing for most people. Would you personally, watching this, would you rather pay low taxes or high taxes? If anything, low taxes keeps the economy going and people spending money, keeps the economy going. People would definitely rather pay low taxes. Low taxes for corporations actually makes them spend more money, puts money into the economy, and gives them more money to employ people as well. If you raising the corporate tax rate a little bit is definitely not a bad thing. I'm actually for that. You guys, everybody has their own opinion. I'm actually for raising the corporate tax rate a little bit, not outrageously. I think that would be detrimental. I'm definitely for raising it a little bit. Of course, everybody has their own opinion, but that's kind of my thoughts on everything. You can let me know your thoughts on everything. The problem is getting the votes to do all this, whether it's Republican or Democrat. It's been a challenge to do everything. We also had a recent study here on two things here. One, there's $800 billion of leftover stimulus money that's already been approved that they could use. It's already been approved, stimulus money that they could use for stimulus checks. It's already been accounted for. It's already been approved by Congress, and they could take half of it. They could take $400 billion of it. That was the cost of the last stimulus check. They could send that out to the low income Americans that are struggling right now to pay their bills, and it wouldn't add anything to inflation. It wouldn't add anything to the national deficit because it's already been accounted for. It's already been approved by Congress, and they could use half of the money because we know that they're not going to use all the money, right? Because they'd want to use some money for other programs. They'd want to use some money for. We just know that they're not going to take all the money. That's just not, Congress, right? So they could take half of the $800 billion, send out a stimulus check, especially before the elections, right? Because, they're all about the votes, right? Come on, we know Congress, right? So they could take half that money. It's already been approved. It wouldn't add to inflation because it's already accounted for. It's not new money they'd be spending. It's already been approved. It's already been accounted for. And they could send it out to all these people in need. That's what I'm talking about. And that would be absolutely amazing. There's like 70 or 80 million people right now that can't pay their bills or struggling to put food on the table right now. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. I'll link you to that video here so you can watch more details on that. So make sure to click the button down below and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll keep you up to date here with everything. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Help us reach 400,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Thanks for watching, guys. I will keep you up to date here with everything. Click here to watch my newest video next. And this is the video about the $800 billion. Definitely want to watch that if you haven't yet. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.